Hi everyone. Thought I'd make a short video edition for you today. One that has some practical information. I thought it was time to start sharing some things that I've done in the course of my years of seeking that could be of use to you. And this happens to be one. It's known as gazing, and it's something I've suggested in a couple of emails to some people who have kind of been helping a little bit recently. And I thought maybe this is a good one to share to everyone because it's one of the ways that 20 or so years ago I was testing the matrix reality directly. Yeah, I read books and yeah, I looked into philosophical ideas around it, but I also knew the only way you could really know it for sure was to experience. What does reality actually mean? How does it operate? How does it work? A mental concept can only take you so far. You have to actually have an experience. So like I say, I did a number of different exercises, but this is one. It's a good practice because it's not overly difficult. It does require a bit of time. You can do it outside or inside. Preferably you're outside in nature, but you can do this, inside your home. And in most cases, certainly at the beginning of this practice, it's very, very safe. So I'll share with you the basic concept of gazing. And what gazing really is staring intently focused on one object for an extended period of time. I used to do this a lot over time. I do this in museums, for example. I can stare at a statue or a painting for an hour or 2 hours straight. It's a gazing practice. I've done it at ancient sites even, where I've just stared at a temple relief wall for 3 or 4 hours. It's not anything like a sort of Zen meditation, like a Zazen meditation, where they want you to stare at a blank wall or stare at a dot on the wall in order to hopefully clear your mind and make your mind happy. This exercise is not about making your mind happy. We don't want being happy. We're not interested in that. This exercise is designed to see objects in their original state or in their deepest, most clear, truthful state, and to potentially see the makeup of the matrix reality correctly. This is generally a very good practice for somebody who's very mental. So if you're already very dreamlike, very sort of I don't know how to describe it, but if you're very dreamlike, you don't really need this practice. Your life has this sort of dreamy element to it. But if your normal reality is quite locked, the table's always the table, the chair's always the chair, the tree's always the tree. You never think about what else it could be. You have some things where you think, I think reality's not real, I think it's a dream, but you don't have any actual pure experience of it yourself, then this could be a good practice. And I'll try to share a couple of the tricks I learned because when I first got the exercises and tried them, I didn't do them very well, and I didn't have a lot of success until I got a couple of pointers, and those pointers just changed the practice. So what you want to do is at the beginning, the first thing to gaze with is a small plant. That's the best thing you can gaze with. I've got just a couple here in my home. Just simple plants that are in your house. All you want to do is sit down, get very, very comfortable, and begin just staring at the plant. Now, you don't want to just stare at it like you're an observer. You're also trying to, in some way, interact with, in this case, the plant. You want to say hello to the plant. Tell it your name. Tell it why you're connecting with it. In essence, you're attempting to make friends with the object you're gazing at. And then as you begin to sit there, don't this is when I got caught. Don't try to concentrate really hard. Don't focus. Don't try to really, What you want to do is be very relaxed about it. I'm just going to try to stare at the camera screen here. Just not very. I can see it, but I can also see the rest of the room. I have sort of, it's in my awareness. Actually, there's a plant here just in front of me. And so I can see the plant, but I could also see the light beside me. I can see the chair that's over here. I get a view of a little bit what's outside, but still it's the main focus of my gaze. And you kind of keep your eyes a little bit relaxed like that. And again, after don't try to do it without introducing yourself and saying hi to the plant. You have to treat this like you're becoming friends with it. And if you don't want to become friends with it, why would it become friends and share something with you, right? And so sit there. The first time, just sit for 10 or 15 minutes. Just get the feeling of what that's like to be still and just stare at the plant. Do this for 2 or 3 or 4 days, maybe a little bit longer as you go along. I found that it would take me about 20 or 25 minutes when there might start being shifts that could happen. Either I could start sometimes thinking like the plant, or thinking the thoughts of the plant, or I might hear the plant. I used to hear sometimes different plants would make different sounds. You might see the plant's leaves change colors or change focus, or you might see what they call fields of energy, right? They call auras around them. You might see things, the plant leaves might disappear. You might see something else. You might see through the plant. There's 100 different things that could happen. I don't want to tell you what your experience should be or will be. The idea is just getting there to get used to getting comfortable with connecting with the plant. And the plant might actually, in some cases, some people I know, the plant starts talking to them, actually starts sharing information with you. This is what happens to me at ancient sites, right? That's part of what I do when I go to a stone circle or a pyramid or whatever. Using my gazing practice, in a sense, I wind up trying to become friends with that location and see if now as my friend, it will share things of information that I normally wouldn't get just by looking at it. I'm trying to gaze into it. So start with a plant, do that for a few days until you feel you can kind of begin to get this, that something's beginning to happen. You probably won't see through the matrix right away with a plant after a week, but you're kind of just getting this sense of, you think something could happen with the practice. And again, it's not about, you probably will feel fine after you're done. You probably won't feel tired or unhappy or anything, but that's not the goal. The goal is to either connect with the object or connect beyond the object, connect what's beyond it. So start with a plant for a while, and then there's a progression. The next progression would be trees. Go see, and that'll take you a while. That'll take you a good month or two anyway, of just sitting with a tree and gazing with it. I used to gaze trees a couple hours at a time, sometimes longer. And I would get things start to happen within 10 or 15 minutes. The tree would all of a sudden start to change and do things and start to become non-tree, actually, become something else. But I knew I was connecting to the essence, what's deeper in the tree. And of course, in time, you can start to see what you might call, like I say, the matrix, what creates the tree. And I don't want to tell you how that's going to look to you, but you will start to see what's beyond reality. But it might not happen with the tree, but the tree is the next progression. These are the nice, slow progression. You can actually even start with just a leaf. Instead of doing the plant first, you could just do one leaf of a plant, then do the whole plant, and after a few days of that, then do the whole plant, then do a tree, then do like a smaller tree outside, and then you can do like a larger tree. From there, another progression would be insects or birds. Insects especially, ones that don't move too quickly, that you can kind of, like an ant or something that's not flying. You can kind of, or maybe you get a fly on the window or a bug on the window, and it kind of doesn't move very much. It often just sits and bangs its head against the window. You can try gazing those and see what you get from that. The next progression after that would be rocks. And it's a little bit down the road to do a rock, because a rock has a lot of power. And so as soon as you begin the process of working with rocks, you want to feel that you're in a very good, knowledgeable place with the gazing practice, so that you feel you can center yourself, and you know that if there's too much power for you, or there's too much knowledge, or you're kind of a little overwhelmed, you know how to turn away, because already by the time you start gazing rocks or ancient sites or things like that, you can get a tremendous hit of energy, and that's why you want to go slowly in this progression. I know Carlos Castaneda, as he mentioned this practice of gazing, and he talked also about having two rocks together where there's a shadow formed between one rock, between the smaller rock and the larger rock, and then to look just at the shadow that the one rock creates. And how did he describe it? Seeing it like a glue, or like that the rock wasn't actually sitting there, that the shadow was the thing that was gluing the one rock to the other. It's hard to explain, but I tried it just out of curiosity, and that was, that was quite the experience, to just stare at this thing. But you can do rocks. Down the road, I'm not going to suggest it for anyone else. I would say stop with rocks. For the average person in this, you will get a lot of matrix information, but you can go on eventually to things like rain and fog and clouds and things that are in the distance, fire, smoke. Smoke is a really good one for seeing people. Like if you put people, I know that's what some of the native medicine men did, and part of the pipe smoking was not only as a prayer, not only as sending the prayers in the smoke, right, to the spirits. It was also, as the smoke was blown towards me, they could see through the smoke and see me more clearly. So oftentimes when you're sitting around a fire, when you sit around a campfire with people sometimes, or even just sitting around a fireplace at home or something, you get insights about people. You get insights about who's there. And especially if there's some smoke. If you're at that outdoor and there's a bit of wind and the smoke is blowing towards certain people in the campfire, you can get insights if you kind of gaze again, not stare. You're just kind of, again, just relax, focus at the person, and boom, there comes a piece of information about them that you didn't know. So fire and smoke are really good for that. Fire is, of course, good for getting information from that element, from the creative force. Just like staring, most of the things you're staring at is earthy, right? And it's hard to stare at the air. You can't stare at wind. Water, I wouldn't recommend anyone to stare at water for any length of time. It's a very advanced practice, and you have to be quite a ways down to be able to stare at that. Another one that's also interesting to share at, again, you could, after the rock session, you could learn to stare. I mentioned the shadow of the rock, but you can start staring at the shadows of anything. You can gaze at the shadow of the tree. You can gaze at the shadow of anything, right? And by staring at the shadow, you're learning the dark side of that form. So when you stare, if I stare at a tree in the sunlight, I'm staring at its light form, right? I'm staring at the one half of its matrix form. When I look at the shadow, I'm seeing the hidden part of it. I'm seeing what is not normally seen in the light. Doesn't mean it's evil or bad. It just means you're seeing you can see what is hidden about that object or thing. You can stare at people. Sorry, I should have added that one in as well. You can stare at people. You can start by gazing at yourself. Just gaze at yourself in the mirror. Just look at your own face in the mirror. And again, with the same kind of relaxed element. If you do it in the mirror, I used to do it in the bathroom, and don't have it like bright light. You want to have it a little bit, it's good almost to have the light on in like a hallway. Don't have the light on in the bathroom. Have the light on in the hallway. And open the door wide enough to let in enough light that you can see okay in the mirror, but not too much that you're really fully lit up. And then, just gaze at yourself and see what comes to you. Your face might change. You might see different shapes, you might see animals. You might see other faces of, some would call them past lives. I might call them other types of people, or other people you kind of connect with through history or something like that. I don't necessarily want to say it's your own past life, because I don't want to guarantee that. You might also see yourself at different ages, and I say you might see really strange things on your face, but don't be frightened by them. It's potential information coming to you. If you don't like a face, just allow it to go and pass and move to the next one and see what else will come. Then you can do that with another person. It's a powerful practice known as gazing. It was something Rumi did, the famous Sufi poet, right? He gazed with a particular man. I can't remember his name, but they would gaze for like 5-6 hours a day, just staring in each other's eyes. And it's for many people thought that he was having this gay relationship or something with this person, but he couldn't understand why would these two people be sitting together in a room for 6 hours. But in Rumi's thought, this was the person who he could most most tap into God through the eyes of another person. That they had this gazing connection. And I've gazed with a lot of people, and some people you just gaze and you see some interesting things about their face, and you have this little bit deeper connection. But others, when you gaze with the other person, you can just, it's like you can feel them, you can become them, you know what they're thinking, you know what their life's been, you know their story, and they're knowing all of your story as well. And as you kind of come out of the gazing practice, you have this unbelievable connection between each other that the practice has given you. So you can also gaze with other people, and sometimes the best gazing partner is not like someone who's really close in your life. It wouldn't be like your own spouse or someone you're dating or one of your kids or something. It can often, and maybe not even a really great friend, just someone that's a friend, someone that you trust, someone that you have a connection to, and for some reason then certain barriers aren't there. There's no history between the two of you, so you can just sit there as two people gazing together. So I guess that's all I wanted to share today. The very interesting practice of gazing. And again, it's twofold. One, it can get you to see, it's one of the practices, it gets you to learn how to connect with an object or a person on a really deep level. When I was doing various helping, I don't want to call them healing because that's not the right word, but helping people with a problem, it helped me to get to see beyond what their conscious mind was telling me about them, and to see a bit deeper of what's going on in a person's life. And I could sometimes get that through the gazing practice. And it's again the same with, you can find a tree or a rock or a place in nature that all of a sudden you have this great connection to, and you're having this fantastic friendship and sharing of knowledge with something you never thought you could share and gain and have an interaction with. And through the course of the gazing, it takes a much longer, usually the connection part of it is the type of thing that will happen first. But if you go a bit further than that, you can, like I say, begin to, you might say, see the source code, if that makes sense. That you could actually begin to see how that object is manifested, what it's manifested from, and how the manifested process works in the standpoint of a reality type metaphor. You're not really seeing it exactly, but you be getting a really good sense of how that object was created, how the manifestation came from nothing, and what the manifestation is, and what a lot of that process is and actually even looks like. I don't want to go into tremendous detail because I would want to leave you totally free to experience this, so that you can get this on your own, and you're not trying to match something that happened to me or someone I know, that you're totally fresh going into this. But if that's something you want to know, if you really want to know about what reality and what's where it comes from, or what its origin is, or what's really here, you might say this is a practice that could possibly help you. So since I've shared it with a number of people already, I thought I'd share it with everybody on the channel. And by all means, if it's interesting to you, give it a shot. Send some comments or something if you have a question, or just a reminder, don't be frightened by anything that you see. Lots of strange things can come in the gazing practice. If you really don't like it, you can either just turn away, just turn your head, just stop looking at it for a while, and it might come back and it'll be back to normal, back to the original object. Or if it doesn't get back and you really still don't like it, just stop, just get up and walk away. That's part of why the gazing practice is so good and so safe in most cases, as long as you keep it to not going into these really heavy duty gazing things. You keep it to like trees and rocks and insects and plants and whatnot, people, is because you still have total power to stop anytime you want. That if you want to I don't want to do this anymore, you just get up and it's over. As soon as you stop looking at the object, the practice is done. And that could help, like I say, some people who are very mind-locked or very have trouble seeing layers of reality, or reality is very static and you want to see more, or you feel your mind is very static, you feel your mind is very locked in. These are very safe ways of beginning to open yourself to a much more potentially fluid reality, and of course a much more fluid self. So, thanks for watching. Your comments, your likes, subscriptions, donations, book sales, information that comes. It's all really appreciated. Cheers.